My name is Miriam Melendez, and I go by Shakti.
Shakti, okay.
Yes, it's spelled Xakti.
Okay. So usually what I like to do is let's first get a little bit of background. You said San Diego.
Yes, born and raised in San Diego.
Okay. And you're Mexican ethnicity?
Yeah, so my mom is from Chihuahua, Mexico, and my dad is from Honduras.
Okay.
So I'm Central American and Mexican.
Okay.
And then born in the U.S.
Gotcha. And then, so let's just take a way step back. You were born in San Diego. Let's dive into a little bit about your music history. Did you have any background in music?
I have no music background, but the way I was exposed to a lot of the music is, my parents. My dad, since he is from Central America, he listens to a lot of salsa, tropicana, and then Honduras, the main music there is punta, which is more of like inspired by West Caribbean people. There is a mix of West, like African Caribbean folks in Honduras called garifunas. And so the punta comes from that culture.
Okay. And would you say that was like a pretty prominent genre that you were familiar with?
Yes, when I was little. And it's even, there's different languages. So my dad would sing and like along to those songs that was in that language, but he kind of forgot it now. And then my mom, Mexican, would listen to rancheras, cumbias, banda. And the person that exposed me to electronic music was my older brother. He was a 90s raver.
Oh, interesting.
And so he would listen to hard style, more like hard techno.
Okay.
So I think my love for techno music came from him.
Okay, so like you were pretty much starting to get exposed from your brother. Was he going to like the big raves like EDC and stuff like that?
So he was going, I think it was before big massives really were big. So he was going to more like underground events. And he actually passed away 10 years ago. And for him, I think, like, I always remember that was his favorite thing to do, right? Like dance, hardstyle dance, techno music. And he would like expose me a little bit to the culture. Like he had like always remember a green Teletubby pacifier.
Oh, I love that.
With the candy. Yeah, it was like a little like necklace.
So like he was, how long would you say he was been a raver? Like how many years has he been raving?
I think he was raving, he was born in the 80s. No, not 80s, sorry. I'm forgetting, but but he was I think he was like around 20 years old when he was like in the 90s. Yeah.
So would you just kind of see him leaving home and he'd just be having like the pacifier?
Yeah.
Was he a candy kid?
Candy kid, yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And you're just like watching, like, what are you doing?
Exactly. I had no idea really like what the actual like or rave was. But I would see him like, and then he would dance also. I don't remember. Oh yeah. So it was like the Rebels, I guess. It was like a crew that they would dance a certain type of way. It was like the Rebels back in the day. So he would like do like dance and break dance and things like that.
Interesting. And then, so do you remember the first rave you went to, or at least an event in that genre?
I think I don't know if I think I went to some undergrounds before, but my first big massive was Together as One in 2010.
Yeah.
In 2010. Yeah. I went with one of my best friends and
that was a massive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here in LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you drove all the way from San Diego and you came up here.
Yes.
And was it something that like, I wanted to go, or did someone else like, hey, we bought tickets, let's go?
So my best friend just kind of talked about like the rave scene and the festivals, and I was like, I want to go. Like I always wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because I remember my brother would go to those. So yeah, we ended up coming up here, and it was like one of the best experiences of my life. That's when I totally fell in love with festivals, and I didn't stop going to festivals after that.
Was it, at least the one that you went to, was it kind of like all genres, or was it like a techno specific event?
It was all genres, yeah.
All genre.
Well, I think mostly house, techno, and electronic music, yeah.
Yeah. So, but this wasn't with your brother, right? There's just you and your friend.
Yeah, my best friend, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember most of it?
Not really, but
Yeah.
I just remember having a really great time, and I remember like when they were doing like the countdown.
Oh, this is a New Year's.
New Year's one, yeah.
Oh,
New Year's, right?
Okay.
So I just remember like the countdown, and that's when I first saw like Glovers and the light shows, and
Yeah.
I was
So you're getting exposed to this entire world that you've never really experienced, just aside from seeing your brother.
right.
What did you, and the people too, I'm assuming, were really great. Oh, was the culture a little bit different back then than it is now?
Definitely, I think so. I think it's like more plur, right? Like peace, love, unity, respect, and I think a lot of massives are losing a lot of that culture.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like people are sometimes being rude, or like not being respectful.
Yeah.
So I do remember that experience. My first rave at Together as One definitely was more plur vibes.
Just one quick, I just move that mic a little bit towards you.
Yeah.
Like this direction.
Yeah.
Right there. That helps. Yeah. So, you're starting to get into this rave scene, and then are we talking about like you're going every event you can get your hands on kind of thing? Or was it kind of slow build?
Slow, I think. My next rave after our massive was EDC 2010 here in LA, the last one that was here.
Oh, wow.
And I was supposed to meet up with this guy, and I get there and there's no phone service. So I couldn't figure out where he was. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm still going to go have fun. And yeah, I basically like was there by myself.
I mean, at least when they had it in the Coliseum, it was just what, one stage or two stage?
I think it was 2 stages. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like one end of the football field or the field, and the other end is the other stage.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the artists that you saw that kind of stood out to you?
I remember watching Steve Aoki, Dead Mouse. And I didn't really know a lot of DJs back then. So I kind of just was walking around and like hearing music. And
is it Steve Aoki? Was he doing that cake thing?
No,
not yet. Okay. But I mean, by that point, like, did it hit you that you wanted to get more involved with it, or were you just still kind of like, I'm just more partying here?
I was just partying, have a good time.
Yeah.
I love dancing, so yeah.
And then, so you said like you're you said you're an open format DJ, right?
I am, but my love is for house and techno.
And
like techno is my number one, I think, for sure. So I usually say that I'm house, techno, and psytrance.
Okay.
And then I do open format on the side because honestly, open format does pay pretty well.
Yeah, I can imagine, yeah.
And there's a lot more job opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I got into more open format.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that later on, once we talk more about your past. So I actually want to know is like your first underground event. Do you remember that?
My first underground was in San Diego. There's this place called Cumbia, and it's basically like a little desert area. And it was super cool because I remember there was like a empty train piece of it.
Like the cart?
Like an actual train, like just an empty train.
Okay.
And like there was a DJ inside, and it was just...
That is so cool.
it was super cool. And then they had like a little dome, like a white dome, where they had performers there too. And they had like cool little lights in the white dome. And yeah, I think that's when I was like, okay, I really enjoyed undergrounds a lot more.
Yeah.
because just the vibe is a lot different. People are hanging out, sharing conversations. Everybody like has their own little tent.
Because it would be like a camping.
Camping, camping underground, yeah.
By that point, how long have you been raving?
So since 2010, so about 14 years, almost 15 years.
Yeah, and then at least by the time you started preferring more of the underground events, you what, like 3-4 years of raving on massives, and then you started to kind of shift towards underground?
I think maybe like after the first year of massives, I got into the underground scene.
That's pretty quick, honestly.
Yeah. And I became friends with a lot of local DJs in San Diego too. So I would always like get invited to those events or like house parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what was the appeal about, you said, was it just the fact that it's smaller, more intimate, easier to get around?
Yeah. I think the vibes are different. Like everybody is more friendly, or like offering like food, right? Like if you don't bring food, water, like somebody has your back.
Yeah. And then what about like your first warehouse? Because you know how techno is. It's always in a dirty warehouse.
I'm trying to remember, what was my first warehouse party? I don't remember exactly, but it's in San Diego. It's a little bit more difficult to find until now, right? But like back in those days, there wasn't a lot of warehouse parties. It was mostly underground or like house parties.
Oh, I see. And then if they were underground, they'd be more out in the desert?
Desert, yeah. Or I would drive up to, I think it's called like the Turtle Sanctuary. And yeah, I went to like a desert party out there, and then it's like I experienced like a desert storm my first time.
We're talking about like sand, big wall of dust.
Yeah, we had to like stay in our tents for a while to like let the sand calm down. Yeah. Get dirty.
Read and mind it, like you're just like, this is part of the experience.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, like I should have prepared better. So I learned how to prepare a lot more for
That's good.
undergrounds and camping and.
And then what was my train of thought? I talking about undergrounds, and then
warehouse parties.
Warehouses, yeah. So you said there wasn't really a lot in San Diego, but I mean, how is the scene in San Diego? Honestly, I'm not really familiar with it.
Yeah, so San Diego is, I think, growing a lot more like within the last 2 to 3 years. Definitely, techno was not a big. There was not a big techno scene. Honestly, it was mostly house.
Okay.
So I think within the past 2 to 3 years, techno has grown a lot more.
Yeah.
So right now there's a couple crews that are doing warehouse parties. But again, it was not like super big. Techno in general is not super big. Not even in like clubs and bars, even less in clubs and bars.
Really?
So I feel like it's fairly new.
Do you find them mostly like in the desert, or are they more like warehouses? Where generally, where can you find them?
Yeah, so I think mostly house parties or or desert parties.
So like, at least for a house party, are we talking about, it's literally a guy's house and he just throws a party, or are they renting out the whole building, off Airbnb? And then...
Yeah, it was mostly like somebody's house, and I remember being at one, it was like in their garage downstairs. They would have the DJ, and people would just come hang out, different DJs.
Yeah. So at least in your time during raving, you were kind of bouncing back and forth between San Diego and LA, or did you kind of exclusively go down to San Diego?
I kind of just stayed in San Diego. I honestly didn't come up to LA too much.
Mostly because of the drive, or you just weren't familiar with the scene out here?
I wasn't too familiar with the scene out here. I had no idea that LA was so big on warehouse parties. And then, I totally forgot. So there was also undergrounds under like freeways.
That's cool.
So I remember going to a couple like under in the tunnels, and so those were like where you would hear more like techno music or harder music.
Like we're talking about like those drainage pipes that you have to walk
Yeah,
into
you walk
with.
through the little drain pipe and then go through like dirty
That's
water,
cool.
you know.
Fun.
Yeah.
So at what point did you start getting involved with the scene? Like I would say like actually like wanting to be a part of it.
I think it wasn't until I like again one of my best friends is a psytrance DJ. So when I started just like learning a little bit of like how to use the controller, I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like
Yeah.
this is fun, and I can like do this forever. It feels like I just had a really good time.
Like it just resonated with you. Like this is you kind of like this is where I want to go.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think most of my life, I have been kind of like learning a lot and learning different skills. I love learning. I'm obsessed with learning. So when I learned this skill, I was like, okay, I can see myself doing this forever.
Yeah.
In my past, I never felt like I wanted to stick to one thing.
Yeah.
And this just felt right to me.
So it's like a little bit of everything you want to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then did you have, usually some people, you know, they get involved with collectives and stuff like that. Did you ever go down that route of like promoting and production or anything like that? Or are you mainly stuck with the DJing?
Yeah, I mostly stuck with DJing, and I didn't get involved in any collective until this year.
Okay.
So yeah, so I learned a little bit with my friend.
So when you say you learned a little bit, like what, 2 weeks or like a year or two kind of learning?
No, so 4 months into just practicing, basically she taught me just like certain levels right on the controller.
Basics, yeah.
Yeah. And 4 months into just like, playing around, I was offered a job at a local swingers club in San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah. And
you know it was a swingers club when you, well, did you apply for it or did they come to you?
No, I didn't apply. I just know the main DJ there.
Uh-huh.
And I told him I was practicing how to DJ.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I actually need somebody to cover me, a couple nights. Do you want to, work here? And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try it out. But like going into it, of course, I was really scared. I had a lot of fears, right? First, being a swingers club. Second, I had never like performed in front of people.
Yeah, that's
so it was facing a lot of fears and pushing through that. But I was really happy I was able to do that. And I feel like I picked it up pretty quick and learned to like please the crowd.
Yeah. So when you first got up there, is this club, are we talking about like a big club, 200 to 300 people type of level?
It can get to 100 people.
Okay.
But most nights I think I would say at least 50.
Still a pretty decent crowd, especially because like you're getting on and you can see their faces.
Yeah.
And then this was more of an open format.
Yes. So this was open format music. So I played hip hop, reggaeton, house music, a little bit of everything. And there was also requests, which I don't really like. I don't think a lot of DJs like requests, right? So it was learning that pretty early on too, is how to handle requests and how to handle all types of personalities too that come up to you.
Yeah.
And
actually I want to get on that point, but before we do, when you're performing in open format, you are jumping between many different genres with different BPMs. Like, do you have a method, or is it just kind of like play with effects and then bring the next one in as quick as you can?
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of just go. The DJ that was the main DJ there, he taught me a little bit about like how the vibe should progress, right? And how a lot of folks love like first bring in the house music and then kind of set the vibe for more like hip hop, like at peak time. Okay. So people, are on the dance floor dancing.
Yeah.
And so I learned a little bit from him how to also learn about different times to like go up and down, right, with the vibe.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting, honestly. You kind of just got thrown into the water and then, you kind of but I mean, do you feel like having that opportunity made you a much better DJ faster?
Definitely. Yeah. I think that really taught me to, again, learn how sets, you shouldn't just stay at one monotonous genre or like stay at one certain BPM.
Yeah.
And to read the crowd a lot better and feel out the night.
So at least for this, are you still doing the gig? Is that still an active thing you're doing right now?
Yeah, I just recently came back to it.
Okay.
I just played actually the Saturday there. Yeah. No, Friday I played there. Yeah. But when I first began, I wasn't getting paid well, right? Because I mean, I didn't mind because I needed the practice anyways. But after I started like my own, got my own equipment, started my own business, basically, I am now right more. I value my time and my craft.
Yeah.
So they're paying me a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's more worth your time.
Yeah.
At least for this specific club, what would you say the demographic is? Are we talking about much older people our age?
It's a little mix of everybody. But I would say there is a lot of an older crowd.
Yeah.
So I'd say people in like their 40s till 60s.
So are you kind of have to gear your music selection for them, right? I'm assuming like more. I don't feel like a lot of them were really like heavy on the EDM stuff. So you kind of focus more on the hip hop.
And then there's a lot of it was all types of mix of people. So I played like Latino music. And then like you mentioned, like the different ages too. So it plays like for the older crowd, like 80s music, 70s, and they would love that.
So how do you, I think this is something good I would like to talk about, is like reading the room, which is something you don't really learn until you actually get on a stage and really see it. So how would you say like, okay, like the crowd isn't feeling it. How do you know in what direction to go to? I mean, you're open format, you have so many different genres to go to. What is your kind of way of like tackling that issue?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think for me, I am intuitive, so I try to see like who's in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So if it's like the older crew, then I'm gonna move to that, or if it's like the Latino folks, I change to that. And I think for me, it's also just tapping into realizing I've already played like an hour of this type of music. I'm gonna change it up to a different type.
Okay. How long are you playing?
Wow. Okay. So the sets there, I did 8-hour sets.
I'm sorry, 8 hours?
8 hours of open format music.
Whoa. Yeah. And this is every week?
And I had a residency there for a year, and it was every weekend.
Wow. How do you even have energy to like 8 hours? I mean, and nonstop.
Nonstop, yeah.
Wow. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I would take, bathroom break and stuff like that, but
how do you do that? Like, even like, do you have like one really long track, or just kind of pre-record a little bit? And
so we had an iPad with just a playlist.
Okay.
So I would put a playlist while I took a break. But now when I do open format at other clubs, for example, and it's like a shorter set or something, I do have a long mix I play to take a break.
Yeah. Damn, 8 hours. I don't think I've ever gotten that long. Did you know, like, oh yeah, you're gonna be playing 8 hours when you first started this?
No, not when I first started, but as I progressed, my hours got extended, and I was like, okay, let's do this.
Even now you're doing 8 hours.
Not right now.
Okay. So it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, I don't want to do 8 hours anymore. So I think my max that feels good is max 4 hours.
Fair. Yeah.
And then after that I get tired.
Yeah. So but I mean, by this point, actually not this point, just like you've had some practice with your friend, learning the basics. You started to perform at the swingers club. Now, I want to get a little bit into when you got into DMI. So were you just honestly just that swingers club, or were you doing a bunch of other things at that time?
No, at that time it was just the swingers club. Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's when I, on Instagram, I saw the flyer for DMI, for Dance Music Initiative, offering a scholarship. I was actually intentionally wanting to find something like that. And I wrote it down in my journal.
And just manifested, huh?
Yep.
I love that. But I think just for the people who don't know, DMI was operating in Orange County. So you were driving from San Diego to Orange County. How often?
It was, I want to say every week. Was it every week? So it's 3-month program. I think it was every week on a Tuesday.
Okay, so once a week. Okay, it's not too bad. Can you just give us a little bit of like a synopsis of how that program worked?
Yeah, so Dance Music Initiative is basically a nonprofit for electronic music, and I know they received a grant to offer scholarships to folks who are interested in learning the DJ fundamentals. So when I got there, they went over like history of DJing first. We also learned how to beat match by ear by learning on vinyl. And then we learned about the foundations of beat matching by key and just practiced. And then our graduation was performing at the Circle OC.
Yeah, that was great. You did so well on that, honestly.
Yeah. Thank you.
How was it learning on vinyl?
Yeah, so I found it super difficult because I don't know, it was just, you had to really pay attention and I at that moment I was feeling really insecure, even though I was actually the person that had the most experience DJing, like performing. Yeah. But I wasn't beat matching really before that. So I was like, okay, this is the real thing. Like and I always get nervous around the teachers or like, the eyes on you. Yeah. So I was just like, oh my gosh, what are these teachers going to say about me? But it was just my mind going into insecurities. So, I really appreciated, the teachers there, Brian, Chang, Blue Maze, and everybody was so nice and so patient, and just I could tell that they loved doing what they did, and so it was just really nice to have mentors there. And it was 4 students and 4 teachers. Okay. So that really helped to have that one-on-one time with teachers. And so vinyl was really cool because I had never actually experienced listening to vinyl or learning how to read vinyl. So I found that super interesting, and
because that's the first thing they make you do, right? Because I've done DMI, not the scholarship but just the regular classes. They always put you towards the vinyls first.
Yes.
So I'm assuming it's the same thing for you.
Same. And
so you weren't expecting it going in there, huh?
Not at all, no. Yeah, but I was really excited to learn because I feel like if you master vinyl, right, you're gonna master
anything else.
Anything, yeah. So it was really fun to learn the basics, and I think I definitely want to go back to vinyl too.
Okay.
And
you think you'll ever do a vinyl set?
I don't know. I feel like it's you have to get a bunch of records and carry all those records.
Have your little crate.
That would be super fun though. I'm super open to it.
But at least when prior to DMI, when you were doing your shows and stuff, even the club you worked at, what was it, CDJs that they had?
CDJs. It was on Serato actually. So it was sorry, not CDJs. It was with the, I don't know if it's CDJs, but it was basically with the laptop. And that was different too. I actually learned on CDJs.
Oh, okay.
First. So I don't really DJ on a laptop ever.
Yeah.
I mostly DJ on my USBs.
Mhm.
So I had to also, on top of that, learned how to use like, laptop and Serato versus when I learned it was Pioneer record box.
Yeah.
CDJs.
Yeah. That's like the basically go-tos.
Yeah.
And then I mean, obviously you prefer the CDJs, huh?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I mean, do they still make you use the laptop now that you're back there?
So now I have my own equipment.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
What do you have?
So I have a Pioneer XDJ-RR. It's just like the smaller version of, yeah.
Is that like a controller all built in one?
Mm-hmm.
And then does it have the screen in the center?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the only difference is it only has 2 channels.
Okay.
And then it only has 4 of the hot cues. But you can like change it basically to have like 8. So you program it, but it only has 4 instead of 8.
Okay, that's nice. And then you just bring that with you whenever you have your own gig. Unless if they provide it, then you just use theirs.
Right.
Yeah. Is it most of the time like do you bring your own equipment or on rare occasions?
It depends, yeah. So if I have like my own gigs, right, I have to bring my own equipment. And some clubs like that I've DJed at, for example, at Riches and Flicks in Hillcrest, they have their own equipment. So yeah.
What are some you mentioned Riches, there's the Swingers Club, any other notable venues you performed in?
So yeah, I played in a lot of clubs in San Diego, mostly Hillcrest, which is like the LGBTQIA neighborhood, and Gossip. Let's see. I've been up here to LA to play a couple of like kink parties, kink events.
Yeah.
And then I've been up to Palm Springs as well to Hunters. Yeah.
So you're very heavily on the LGBTQ plus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Side of the raving scene.
Yes.
Was that like you were part of the community and then you just kind of like word of mouth, kind of your name started to build up from there?
Yeah. So I am part of the community. I identify as pansexual and non-binary. So I use they, she pronouns. And so I started, and that was actually like my lead into the scholarship because they were looking for like underrepresented communities.
Oh, I see.
So, part of my application, I wrote down how I think it's really important to have more representation we need more female DJs, right, and producers, and more trans non-binary also artists to be highlighted. So that's one of my big I guess callings or purpose and intentions of what I do is I really want all people to have access to music and have access to learn DJing if they want to.
Yeah.
Because the industry is very narrow, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not a lot of opportunities. Specifically to in San Diego, there is nothing like DMI. And I think we need a lot more DMIs all over the world. And I think we need more education in general. So I think there's a lot more of opportunity for folks. And so there's a lack of access, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So more or less, you're starting to build your name. And then most of these gigs, like what, just through networking, huh?
Networking. So I started doing open decks in Hillcrest.
Oh,
and
okay.
so when I started doing open decks, that's when other DJs in Hillcrest started knowing like who I was, and that's how I kind of got into Hillcrest. And basically, there was a DJ. Shout out to Jinx Mirage. He helped me get my current residency right now at Barreled and Board. It's basically an upscale bar restaurant in Hillcrest, and it's queer women owned. And so he had me cover a couple nights when he had other gigs.
I see.
And so I started covering for Jinx, and then he offered one of his weekend nights every third Saturday. So now I have that residency there every third Saturday.
Yeah. So you kind of got like, you were just more or less substituting, and then it eventually led into residency. Can you go into a little bit like what a residency is for people who don't know what that is?
So a residency is basically having a set day, or it could be like a day or a weekend at a club or bar. And so, for example, my night is every third Saturday, and it's called, I named it House Goddess,
Okay.
a night of sexy and sultry house music.
Love it.
So that was really a really proud moment for me because I really wanted to get a residency and just get known for having that night and for folks to come and see and hear the music that I have.
So speaking of music, like let's pick on that specific residency. What would you say the sound you gravitate and you play is? Like, what if I was to go see your set? What would I expect to hear? You know?
Yeah. So for that night, I kind of go in different ranges of house music, and then I play a little bit of like top 40 pop hits. Or remixes of like pop hits. So I kind of start off with like a little bit of some Afro house, and then move into like a little bit of melodic house, and then I play a lot of like I said, remixes of like popular songs
Like
that
remix into a house.
that like the queer scene loves. So yeah, I play like a lot of like queer hits and house remixes of queer hits. Yeah.
So at least in that community, is it like a different vibe you get compared to just like coming out to just your average event that everyone goes to?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say is like the difference is the biggest difference that you can come up with?
I think for me, it's always more fun to play at like LGBTQ events because at first it's my own community, and folks are a lot more like open and fun, and we receive a lot of compliments as well. Yeah. So it is like a lot more welcoming too.
Yeah,
I would say.
That anxiety you used to get when you first started to play is much less.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because I feel comfortable in my own community. Yeah.
Huh. And then would you say you're at a point right now where you've have a solid community? Or is it still kind of like growing right now?
I think it's still growing. I think even in the community, there's different types of folks, right? And different types of genres of music that people like. So like even the queer scene is like barely getting started in like house too. Okay. So like a lot of like one of the big lesbian bars there mostly has like country or hip hop.
Oh, interesting.
And no house music really. So there's only certain like clubs that like have house music where I can play a little techno like at the end of the night, which is cool.
Into the afters.
Yeah. But again, like techno is not too big yet in a lot of clubs and bars in Hillcrest. There's one that just basically got renovated and renamed. It used to be called The Marrow, and now it's called EQ.
Okay.
So EQ is now like the main club bar that has techno music and techno events there.
Are we talking about more melodic techno or like hard techno?
So we're slowly getting into the hard techno.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, there's certain events that they do have, like they've brought in some hard techno DJs.
Okay.
So they're also working a lot with Crossed.
Okay, that's cool.
So a lot of the Crossed DJs are performing there, and so like I'm really happy about that because finally there's like some hard techno events. But again, I think that's like the only main spot that like has consecutively like
both techno DJs. Yeah. I mean, is the goal to hopefully do gigs there for yourself?
Yeah, I've actually performed there a couple times, and into 2025 there is going to be a new techno night called Fresh Press.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be part of that as well next year.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Huh. Did that just kind of like get offered to you, or did it just come up and you applied for it?
So there's a crew and record label called Technique.
Uh-huh.
And so I was able to get a spot during one of the Technique nights, which was I think it was every last Thursday of the month. There's Technique. So I performed at Technique, and the producers and DJs really liked my set. So, and they're trying to bring more new DJs too, because a lot of like the techno DJs that play are like a lot of the older crowd, right? Like a lot of the elders.
Yeah.
And they're looking for like fresh new DJs, new sounds. So, one of the DJs and producers wanted me to be part of that. So, after my performance for Technique, I was told about like this new event. So Technique is basically going to be on pause.
Yeah.
And so this one is taking over.
How often is that one going to be?
That one's going to be every first Thursday of the month.
Every first Thursday.
At EQ, yeah.
Okay. And then, so more or less, we talked a little bit about your house DJing. When it comes down to playing techno, where do you kind of gravitate in your sound on that?
So for techno, I would describe my techno... It's very open, but most of my techno is hard techno, and I do like psytech too.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. It's one of my loves, psytech. And then I would say acid too.
Okay.
Is a big one for me, and I enjoy listening to a lot of DJs, like European DJs or like DJs from South America, that have like really different sounds, or like include like even like, you know, like Spanish vocals or like different languages. And anything that's high beats, like I always like to keep the crowd moving and dancing.
What BPM range would you say usually play around?
So my range, again, it's like very big too. So I would say from like anything from 130 to like 165.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
But my love is around, I want to say like 145 to like 160.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's where you kind of like thrive and you
and
really get involved in it.
Yeah.
And we were just talking earlier, you were at Reform.
Yes. Yes.
So you said you did a little bit of events here in LA, but I'm assuming not as much as you're doing it down there. Do you feel like you want to kind of stick down in San Diego and build up there, or is there an interest in maybe trying to like establish yourself here?
Definitely. I think the techno scene here is awesome. And when I went to Reform this past weekend, the music was so good that I thought I was going to go home early, but I ended up staying almost to the end.
That's the best. Yeah.
So like when the music is good, you know, like that's important to me, and I rather like just have a great night and you know, listen to the different types of techno. And I definitely do want to expand to LA. I haven't had a techno set here yet. But I would love to. And I've played techno up in Palm Springs, actually. They are just starting out. Also, like the techno scene, it's not too big over there. So there's a crew of like female techno DJs that are over there, and it was super fun to play over there. And then I just went up to the Bay Area to San Francisco, and I know like there's, you know, you can literally throw down any type of BPM if you're the opener or the closer, you know what I mean? I think for San Diego, we don't have that. Like you can't just do
like
150 as an opener. But I think like the main purpose too of this new event, the Fresh Press, is basically to have like to not limit yourself. Like
that's really cool.
Do what you want. I mean, you know, do what you want. I mean, but like
within reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and you know, prior to us starting, we did talk a little bit about, you know, you kind of juggling the idea about going to like Vegas too for opportunities. I mean, I feel like the biggest like conundrum you would have is I've already am and have built something in San Diego. Do you feel like you're gonna have to start from zero going if you do go out to, Vegas?
No, I don't think so. I think there's also, I have two networks or friends, people that are DJs out there. So definitely I've thought about connecting with them and getting their advice. And then I also DJ'd an event recently where I met a guy who he had like he was the one providing the sound and the speakers. And he told me that they need DJs that play all types of music over there. There's clubs looking for DJs that are, able to play like open format, bass, dubstep, like everything. So that's when I was like, I like kind of clicked in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was a skill I had, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like I have that skill, and that's like a really good skill to have. And I'm like, okay, I'm actually ahead of the game. Like, why not? Why have
You're the first. No, sorry. B Chang is probably an open format DJ, but yeah, I think you're the second person I ever met who does open format.
Yeah.
And I've been DJing for 6 years.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people for sure. Yeah. So
I only have 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, surprising. That's a great honesty. I think doing 8-hour sessions, definitely like you put in your hours for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. But this is something like right now, is it something that will happen in 2025 or is this still kind of like up in the air?
I think it is going to happen 2025. Okay. I haven't taken the leap yet because I have my family in San Diego. So my parents, and my parents, I see them as my kids sometimes, but like similar to like reversing the roles, right? Like parents are always scared of like in my culture, in my Latino culture, like they don't want their kids to leave the house.
Yeah.
So I feel like I reversed that and I was like, I don't want to leave my parents. But I know that it's going to be a better decision for me and a better decision for my career. And this is my passion, my love. So I think 2025 is going to be the year and taking that leap.
Okay.
Even though I'm super scared, but but everything is lining up to me to do that.
Yeah, like you kind of feel like, hey, the universe is pushing in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it sounds like you already have a network there, and honestly, you've performed in a lot of cities in just 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is San Diego like your favorite, or is there a specific city that you're like, oh yeah, I love this crowd?
I don't really have a favorite. I would say I think it just depends on the scene and the people, and my big dream, right, is to go to Berlin.
Love it.
So yeah, so that's like the main goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe going to Vegas first and then going to Berlin, or like maybe LA. Yeah,
you're just gonna feel it out in the city.
Yeah, I'm gonna feel it out.
Out of curiosity, how was San Francisco? Because I'm from San Francisco, but I never got to experience the underground scene there.
Yeah.
How do you describe it? Like, is it very LA-ish?
So I didn't really go to an underground in San Francisco. I went to like a nightclub.
Okay.
And it was like during Folsom Street Fair. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot more like the kink BDSM community. So I went to like a kink techno night. And it was just really fun. People were just, doing their thing on the dance floor. DJs, even from the opener to the end, were playing all types of BPM ranges. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed. Like people were more friendly too. Like came up to me, were like, "Hey, how's it going? Where are you from?" Okay. Yeah. So I think the crowd is a lot more like back in the old days, like the plur vibes. Like San Francisco definitely has the plur vibes.
Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier Palm Springs. I'm not familiar with Palm Springs all that too well, besides obviously going to Coachella, and that's pretty much it. I've always felt like it was a senior town, but is there like an EDM community out there?
Mm-hmm. There is, yeah. It's slowly growing, but my first time playing in Palm Springs, it was for a like queer women non-binary nights at Hunter's, and I got that gig through Femme A, and she's the one running those events. And then she connected me with like the DJs that's doing techno events there, Sugar Free. And so the event that was there was super fun. Like a lot of people turned out for that event, and just again the vibes were really great. Sound system was great.
I love it.
Yeah, so it was a fun time.
Yeah, I judge places by their sound for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, I will not come back here if it sounds like this bad. It needs to be dialed in. I think I got that from Brian Chang too, because he taught me how to set up sound. I was like, Brian, you ruined sound for me.
Yeah.
So now, like, okay, we spoke heavily on the DJing. Do you produce?
I do not produce, but that is the next step for 2025. I have again like friends who are producers, and they've been kind of sharing a little bit about different softwares, different apps too that I can start with.
Yeah.
And again, I have no music background, so it's going to be learning a whole new world. But I'm super excited for it because I have a lot of ideas about what type of music I want to produce and just like the intention behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to learn something new.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, at least for me, because I've been producing for about 5 years, I came into it no leg of music. But you'll come to see, at least in this show, I have a lot of teachers and mentors too who run their own programs. One of my teachers and mentors is on the show as well. His stuff is so great. Like his Instagram and YouTube channels, you'll find it, trust me. But trust me, when you open that Pandora's box, it's gonna give you a different level of appreciation for music. And anyone who produces always says the same thing, like music no longer sounds like you used to. You would hear something and then you just take it as is. It's a track. When you become a producer, you're like, oh, how do they make that sound?
Yeah.
How do they do this? You start thinking at these things.
Right.
Yeah. Is there a software that you've kind of like have your eye on?
So Ableton. Yeah. Right. It's like, I think the one of the main ones. And one of my friends too is a producer, and I would just, before like I even learned DJing, I would see him on Ableton just like, doing his thing, and I was like, wow, that looks really complex. But I'm a super tech nerd, so I love like
learn too.
Yeah, so I think it'll come easy to me once I like, get in the flow of it. But yeah, Ableton is definitely something I want to get into. And then like I said, there's a couple apps that my friends are letting me know to like, to just play around with. So.
And are you gonna focus more on house and techno, more techno, or kind of?
Yeah, so I would say more techno.
Yeah.
With some psytrance, and then right now I've really been into bass.
Oh, okay.
So I've had a couple bass events recently, and I really enjoy playing bass too.
Is this something like very new that you've been playing?
Yes, I would say this year was my first. I had my first bass event, and then from there on, people have been booking me for bass.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just to kind of like help people understand bass music, it's very, would you say experimental-ish? Very, like, obviously low-end bass music, but it's also a lot of wubs.
Yeah.
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 Was it just like, hey, there's an event, sure, I'll give it a go? Or was it like intentional, you wanted to like try bass?
I definitely wanted to try bass because I like bass music. So I had a bunch of bass downloaded too. Okay. And I would just practice by myself.
Yeah.
And then, one of the crews asked me to do a bass event. And so I started off with like a lot more higher BPM bass. Until recently I went from the last bass event set I did was, I think I started like at 76 and then I went up to like 140.
Wait, so bass music like goes down that low?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, I mean, coming from like a techno and house, does it feel weird to have that low BPM? I feel like the style of DJing is already kind of completely different. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I think that was something I like challenges. So I wanted to push myself because I had a lot of like, I looked at all my bass music and like most of it was higher, but I really liked some songs that were super lower BPM. So I was like, I want to try to like make it all in one. And it was super fun. I had a great time. And it turned out really well. So happy about that.
Do you have, when's your next one?
My next one is on the 14th of December. It is for Underwear.
Okay.
In San Diego.
I love these names, honestly.
Yeah.
Great.
And Underwear is actually an LA crew.
Oh, okay.
So they just started having events in San Diego too. So they're bringing a lot more of the techno scene too. And then a big crew in San Diego that does techno is New Life Sounds.
New Life Sounds. Okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunities in San Diego, huh?
Slowly but surely, I feel like you have to network and put yourself out there, reach out to folks, and then of course have, a good setup with like your mixes, right? Have different types of mixes on your SoundCloud. And I also, I think what's really helped me is to have an electronic press kit.
Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah. So DMI actually taught me what that is. So thank you, Brian. That's helped me a lot to get a lot of gigs. So basically an electronic press kit is a document that shows who you are as a DJ, right? Where your bio, what venues you've played, what crews you're part of, if you have any residencies. And then I have like pictures. I need to add videos on there. But it also has like your contact and logo and all that stuff that you can send to like media or like venues.
More or less, it's like a portfolio resume.
Correct.
Yeah. And then you would just essentially find the venue or collective and contact them and send them your information and just wait at that point.
Right.
Would you say most of your gigs that you've gotten has been through that method of just cold calling?
No, actually, I think it's more networks.
Okay.
Networks, and then, like I said, I started performing a lot of open decks.
Yes.
So other DJs started seeing, and other collectives started seeing like my sound, and so it's been, I think, mostly through networks. But I think just having that, it's like super professional to have, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, like she's the real deal.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's not really common knowledge. So I feel like not a lot of DJs have press kits and all this stuff kind of ready to go. So you kind of have an advantage over them. On top of that, you're an open format DJ, so you are very versatile. So for 2025, because we're already almost at the 1 hour mark, what is the one thing to look forward to besides moving to Base?
For me, 2025, I definitely want to learn how to produce.
Are we going to get a track release?
Sorry?
Are we going to get a track release?
Oh, wow. I didn't think that far.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great goal.
That'd be a great one to play your own music.
Probably not if, but I'm gonna at least say 3 track releases in 2025. That's gonna be my goal.
So it's 3 track releases, move to Vegas, and just play more. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think we're pretty much, wrapped up with the hour. Is there anything else you want to just wrap things up with? Shout outs or whatever?
I think one of the questions you had on there was what advice I have for DJs. Yes. I think that's a really good question. So my advice for folks that want to learn how to DJ would be to practice a lot, right? The more you practice, the more it becomes muscle memory. So it's really important to also face your fears. It's okay to have insecurities, but you're going to have to push through those insecurities and always, just have fun and be intentional. For me, like I shared, I like to kind of set an intention before I perform of how the night's going to go and how people are going to feel during like on the dance floor. So I think that's a big thing is, it's not just about you, right?
Yeah.
It's about the crowd and it's about having fun and all of you having fun and being on the same vibe. And for me, I see music as a healing experience. So for me, The dance floor is a place to heal and have fun and just connect with people. So yeah, just remember, have fun.
Do you think having that, that belief and value kind of helps you overcome your insecurities? Because, I mean, I feel you kind of have this shyness to you, right? So I feel like, performing can get very anxiety filling.
Oh yeah.
Does it kind of give you a little bit of courage knowing like, hey, I'm providing not just music, but an experience for people?
Definitely. I'm a completely different person performing. I feel like I have, like an alter ego.
Because I remember seeing you play at Circle. You were just vibing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think I really step into myself and into my power when I perform. And yeah, not be afraid, because I see myself as a leader, and the way that you feel and react, also people are going to feel that, right? Yes. So if you're nervous up there, like people are going to feel that. So something that because I was super nervous when I first performed at DMI, but and then I got feedback from my friend. She's like, hey, just remember to look up and smile.
Easy as that.
Yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, like I got it. So so that was really important for me, is get out of your mind and like into your body, and
more present.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Have fun, be grounded, and do your thing.
Would you say at this point right now, like that stage fright is gone, or do you still get it now?
I still get like really nervous before any set, but I think it's gotten a lot better. And I think maybe it's not nervousness, but it's like excitement, right? So I think it's also learning how to shift that thought process of basically, like I feel the butterflies, but those butterflies are excitement. It's not me being nervous. Like, you got this, you've done this like 100 times, like,
Yeah. Actually, one more question I want to ask. What is the big dream that you have for this? Like, what is that vision that you see at the end of that, not at the end of the tunnel, but like, like your work striving towards? Because someone like as active and as determined as you are, kind of, I would assume, has like a vision that they hold for themselves. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah. So I think my big vision is basically going back to my purpose, which is really allowing female and non-binary people to have access to learning how to DJ or learning how to produce if they want. I see myself maybe even having some sort of school. Like, I really, again, enjoyed DMI, and I think we need more DMIs. And I think I really want to eventually, I've already taught one person how to DJ, and I'm actually staying with him right now in LA. And he's doing great out here. Like,
what's his name?
DJ Abu Sidna.
Is he Middle Eastern?
Middle Eastern, yeah.
Oh,
from Egypt. He has a great story. Definitely you should interview him.
Oh, please.
As well.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, he's great. But with Yassine, we lived together. We were roommates for about 5 months, and during those 5 months, taught him how to DJ. Again, he moved to LA. He's blowing up over here. He's like, come to LA, you're going to blow up even more. And I'm like, you're right, but I love my parents. I want to stay in LA. I mean, in San Diego. I was like, I'm not ready. But so I think continuing that, I really want to be a teacher. I really want to have, have folks have access to that. And I think, that's my big dream.
All right. Yeah. Well, hopefully when we bring you back in a year, we'll see how far we've come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.